and somebody reported that, well, that wouldn't be, that would not be treasonous in my view.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I think it was pretty narrow, his use of the word treason.
well,
Not as broad as what you just described. Now that your description, however, does open our minds to the possibility that some information is being leaked that ought not to be. I agree with.
Absolutely. Now, in order to be able to have a legitimate and reasonable argument,
no power.
a long-range missile and defense, there's two different issues here. Long-range offensive missiles and long-range defensive missiles, two different categories. Basically, do we have enough Tomahawk missiles? Because that is the long-range 1,000, 1,500-mile surface-to-surface or air-to-surface or subsurface. Everybody can shoot Tomahawks, the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy, particularly Navy submarines. And those are long-range land attack missiles. And we've used, reportedly, we have fired some 800, excuse me, 850 of them thus far in the war. We have a guess that we had around 3,000 or 4,000 when we started the war. These numbers have been bandied around. Those actual numbers are classified and they should not be published. You can guess, but the actual numbers are classified. I'm sure they're secret, maybe even top secret, and they should not be published. Okay? Now, the Tomahawk missiles, the USS Georgia, I think it was, the Ohio SS, guided missile submarine. There's four of them. The Ohio, the Michigan, the Florida, and the Georgia. Two in the Atlantic, two in the Pacific. One of those submarines carries, I think it's 152. That's been published. 152, 153 missiles. So that gives, and I'll guarantee you, I think it was the Georgia, but there was at least one Ohio class submarine that was clearly contributing a massive amount of Tomahawk missiles to the initial attacks on Iran. Okay? Now, the Air Force bombers carry Tomahawk cruise missiles, and certainly we've seen countless images of surface ships firing the Tomahawk missiles. A surface ship, I don't know the exact numbers, and you can find it out in Jane's fighting ships, so it's not classified. But 153 plus missiles on one submarine, and you're talking 25 or 30 maybe on a destroyer. And if you've got 5 destroyers in a full battle group, then you're talking maybe 100 missiles that would be available from that battle group in terms of Tomahawk missiles. So the Tomahawk missile inventory is something that needs to be carefully examined, and the only way to do it reasonably and rationally is in a classified setting. And for the press to be, and people will leak the discussions in those classified sessions. And that, if they leak the numbers, that is classified information and against the law. If they leak the fact that General A and Admiral B got into a fight over it, whether that's classified or not, I don't know. It just feeds the frenzy of political discussion. Now let's talk about another shortage. This one was reported, leaked, and I think it's true, but I'm not sure. There's a general, I believe it's the Army general responsible for all the troops in Europe. And he has a defense commitment to have long-term protection over defensive missiles in that theater. And the ships needed in order to be able to launch those missiles from either the Atlantic, the Mediterranean, or the Baltic. He got into a tizzy, evidently, because weren't going to give him a guided missile destroyer that he absolutely felt he had to have. And without a guided missile destroyer, he would not be able to maintain whatever commitment he had made to NATO. And he sent a communication to somewhere within the government bitterly complaining about the fact that he wanted, it was a food fight. It's a food fight between fighting the war in Iran and continuing to protect people in the Atlantic and the Pacific who are not so engaged in that fight. Food fights like that go on all the time. How about between Montgomery and Patton in Operation Market Garden, where Montgomery got all the goodies in order to launch his attack to the north and took away fuel and ammunition from Patton and slowed him down. That was a hell of a fight that went on during World War II. So those kinds of food fights are to be expected. But is the United States critically short of both offensive and defensive missiles? I don't know, because I don't know the numbers. It would be logical to think that certainly we have to draw down the inventories in the Pacific and the Atlantic in order to keep the numbers up so that we can continue to protect particularly the Gulf states and the U.S. troops. You've got to protect the battle group. You got to have enough defensive missiles to protect 2 carrier battle groups that are out there. You got to have enough defensive missiles to protect Jordan, the Gulf, South, all of those places. And obviously, we're not giving enough to Zelensky because he says he's out. He's completely, that's part of the food fight that's going on. All that is great information to have, but how you make a justified, critical, strategic decision, trying to do so in the general public is pretty ridiculous and pretty laughable. I think we've got a problem with some ammunition, and Trump says we got enough. We probably have enough 500 and 2,000 pound bombs to blow up Russia. I mean, the conventional bombs. We have enough bombers. We have enough ships. We have enough submarines, and we have enough of the normal supply of what the bullets that we've had for years, the quantities of bullets to put into rifles and machine guns and all that other kind of 5-inch artillery shells off of destroyers. We probably have more than that than we need. But in critical areas, yes, I think we probably have a big problem. I've talked way too long, and I've tried to give you. Oh, the other thing, the whole nuclear thing, the nuclear argument is completely separate. It has a different force. The space assets to support both Iran and Taiwan and a nuclear deterrence, those are arguments that are entirely different from the conventional discussions that I've been trying to explain to you. I hope I haven't talked too long and bored you to death.
For sure, we're not bored, and for sure, you haven't talked long. And if you don't mind, I'm going to allow you to stay on the stage in case you have further commentary or people might have a question or two for you. I do want to point out something that neither you or I mentioned, and there has been some public discussion, obviously, on the Hill about all of this. For example, Senator Kelly has explicitly argued that the massive scale of regional airstrikes has been putting a severe strain on the available weapon supplies. So it's not as if this is in a, it's not as if there hasn't been, both in terms of some of the analyses by some of the strategic think tanks and some of the discussion that's public on the Hill it's not as if this should become as a surprise to anyone. To the degree to which it puts us at risk, that's obviously debatable. But presuming once again that the Washington Post reporting is accurate, how is it possible the president didn't know this?
The president knew it. He'd been told. I mean, the president knows that the argument is out there. And I don't think the president himself knows exactly how many patriots we have. He may know that exact number. He certainly should be able to get it. I could write it on somebody could put it on a Post-it note and give him the number. How many we need? Now that's arguable. What's the burn rate? How many do we shoot per day versus how many can we resupply? Those numbers are way out of balance, I'm sure. But what the details are, I don't know. And there's one other point that I didn't make. Supposedly, and this makes sense, though I don't know whether it's true or not, supposedly Trump backed down on this is going to be bigger than World War II. What was it last weekend that he was talking about that new major strike? And the reason he yet again tacoed or said, no, we're not going to do it, is because Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states said, we don't have enough defensive missile capabilities, and they're going to start blowing up our oil refineries and our own infrastructure, and you can't hit them hard on their utilities, their basic civilian infrastructure, because we don't have enough missiles to knock down the incoming. And Trump backed down from that strike reportedly because the Gulf states made that position very strongly to him.
Well, adding some credibility to that speculation is the fact that last night, or maybe early this morning, our time, certainly today, Iranian time, the Iranians issued a statement that they are contemplating doing just that, hitting the Gulf states oil and come on.
They've already started doing it, onesies and twosies, and they're threatening to do their own, quote, massive strike. Whether they have the capability to do that, I don't know. But they've been saying they're going to do that, so that's not a surprise.
Also, we have to take into consideration they're very adept at drone warfare. And you can't stop them all, and it's not expensive relatively, as compared to a cruise missile, for example, to send a bunch of drones over. So I don't know what Saudi Arabia or Qatar's or any of the other Gulf states, Kuwait's defenses look like with regard to a drone attack that might come from Iran. But I think it's something that keeps their generals up at night concerned.
It keeps CENTCOM himself up at night concerned about it. Can you imagine the political damage if one drone hit the flight deck of one aircraft carrier? I mean, it would be a pinprick. They'd put the fire out in a military minute, and they'd have planes taking off on the flight deck within a couple of hours probably. But can you imagine the politics of a drone from Iran striking a major combatant vessel, a guided missile cruiser or an aircraft carrier in the midst of this war? The politics of that image would be
unbelievable. I mean, the USS Cole all over again.
There you go.
Well, the thing is, it would even be worse than the USS Cole, in my opinion. And I'm sure the pressure on these, some of them very young sailors who are on watch, is just got to be immense.
Oh no! Come on, now wait a minute. That's why sailors are trained. That's why sailors for years have been going on 6 and 9 months deployments. That's why submarines stay submerged for 80 days at a time. That kind of stress and that kind of intensity is what the United States Navy trains for day in and day out during peace or by war. And we've got the best trained Navy in the world to be able to do that.
I've never understood. Someday I'd love to have an explanation on here, of course, of how they, because you're the expert on this, on how they are able to listen to pings submerged and analyze what they're listening to. That's unbelievable to me. What a talent that must take. Thank you, Anson. We'll now go to Alan, followed by Scott.
Hi everyone, thanks. I don't have that much, not at all knowledge about all this, but thanks Anson for all the information he put in, and I learned a lot, but I think overall we not American. We think we are, and they picture it for us. There are many lag, and I'm worried about the enemy within. Back to you, sir.
Thank you, Alan. I think you expressed all of our thoughts. We'll go to Scott, followed by Ellen Normal.
Okay, there we go. Found my button. Yeah, I mean, are we at risk? I don't think we're defenseless, right? I mean, I'm sorry I missed so much of the conversation already. I'm sure Anson said a lot of helpful things. I'm glad he's on the stage. So yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, at risk is for what, right? I mean, I think. Look, I mean, this conflict with Iran, which I think is probably gonna not end anytime in the immediate future. I mean, it doesn't seem so. I mean, who knows? I mean, with the president, who knows? But look, it's reduced the inventories of certain high-end precision weapons and stuff like that, apparently.